I'm Rupha Ramani, and you're watching A Cup of Dreams here. And in what has been a very surprising, or at least a tad surprising turn of events, we've got our first upset here at the Cricket World Cup in India. Afghanistan has ended up beating England by 69 runs. It's a historic moment, especially for Afghanistan, beating a side like England, one of the title contenders, defending champions of the Cricket World Cup, in a fantastic display, all-round display with both bat and ball in a very, very monumental match in Delhi. The fact that they also played the previous match in Delhi, probably also aiding their strategies. And as well, they have an inside man on the sidelines, someone like Jonathan Trott, who's there with them in the wings, sort of coaching them as well. So that's something that's helped them too. But yes, what a stunning outcome. And how amazing something like this happens when it happens in a World Cup. It's just brilliant because this is what you want. It's not just about the predictable results. You look for such outcomes, you look for such performances. And that's what makes this tournament that much more exciting. And it sort of opens up the tournament to a lot more possibilities. It gives more opportunities to make that table look a little more dynamic, the points table to sort of come alive and look more dynamic. Afghanistan, if you also remember, they have had some very tough moments in the past. It's been a side that's coming into its own. They are building a team. They've always been a strong T20 outfit, but in the longer limited overs format like the ODIs, the one-day international, they really have struggled to form a sort of footing and to form a bond or to form a very compelling team, a very compelling set of principles. And that's what's happened for Afghanistan in the past. And you see a team like this coming together after two back-to-back defeats in a World Cup. Their first loss, if I just check, was against Bangladesh. Their second defeat, of course, coming at the hands of India in the very ground that they have now created a stunning turnaround upset. They also, the news that we were receiving that day, even when I was there at the India-Afghanistan game, it was a very disappointing outcome for them. They were outplayed, especially in the batting department. India making short work of the target that they had set in those conditions. It wasn't really enough. And at that post-match press conference, the coach Jonathan Trott was very positive. He came out saying this is a team that is still having a strong sense of belief in their own abilities. They really do have faith in their own talent, in their own skills. They also have come together after what's happened back home with the earthquake, with so much of destruction and so much of despondency back home has also spurred them to be together, to come together. That's something that has also resulted in this positive coming together, in this positive outcome for them on the field. Rashid Khan, if you remember, decided to donate all of his World Cup earnings towards relief work in Afghanistan. All these players, in fact, from what we hear, had a lot of conversations. They wanted to help people back home, and that has also brought them together. We saw them wearing those black armbands against India. So a team like this really, really coming together against a team like England. If I had to also put out a little bit about where England is currently in this tournament, we know they had a very rocky start to the entire World Cup. I'm just looking at the scorecard there. They lost their opening game against New Zealand, if you remember, batting first. Again, not enough runs on the board in the very massive Narendra Modi Stadium. And then the match against, then they came back very strongly in the match against Bangladesh. And you thought that this was a turnaround that we were seeing, even in the absence of a few key members, particularly Ben Stokes. The others were standing up. There was a sense of purpose, and they were coming around, and there was some spark there. But on this day, on this given day, there was always this feeling of how they would play and how they would perform, how they would stand their ground against spin. One of the key assets, we always spoke about Afghanistan being a good component of spin bowling. Some of the best spinners, and one of the best spin bowling units in this tournament, in fact, belonged to the Afghanistan outfit. We thought that they would, in fact, open their bowling with spin, and that's what they did today. Mujib coming in good. I just want to show you some of the figures of the key bowlers there in that lineup for Afghanistan. If I had to recap the scores for you now, Afghanistan batting first put up a decent score of 284, not a total that is entirely daunting, but definitely something that is defendable, and they were proved right. You would think that England, with the kind of batting lineup that they boast of, such strong performers like Johnny Bairstow, David Malan, who scored 100 in the previous game, Joe Root, who became their top run getter in World Cups, Harry Brook, the only spark, in fact, the only sort of wall in their batting lineup today, who came good and created some sort of a defense, created some resistance in that entire lineup, was Harry Brook. He's the only one who showed some spark for them in that lineup. But you look at the names there, Joss Butler, Liam Livingstone, again someone whom we've been saying hasn't really put in that consistent performance over the last few months. A bit of a cause for concern for a side like England that is looking to defend its title. Hasn't been an easy road for them so far. Sam Curran, they do have a very deep batting lineup. There is that thought also when I was watching the second innings play out, of possibly someone like Adil Rashid, who knows how to negotiate spin, to have possibly come up the order a little bit. But these are just ifs and buts. There were a few lusty shots towards the end that Mark Wood provided, but it was a little too much. It was a little too little, too much had already been done. So that's what's the latest that we are receiving here at the World Cup. One of the first upsets, again, to recap what we've seen so far, Afghanistan beating England by 69 runs. They only faced England 3 times in World Cup, in ODI World Cup so far. The previous 2 occasions they lost. This is, in fact, the first time that they have ended up beating a side like England. What a stunning moment for the country. What a stunning moment for the team. I have to speak particularly of the Afghanistan bowling unit, the spin unit, in fact. Mujibur Rahman really spearheading that spin bowling department there. You would think that someone like Rashid would have led the charge, but he came back towards the end to create that breakthrough, which was key towards the end. So you had someone like Mujib setting it up at the beginning before coming back for another spell somewhere towards the end, and again creating that little bit of a breakthrough. And then you had someone like Rashid Khan. You cannot really put him out of the game. So when Mujib got Harry Brook out, who was the only point of resistance and the only hope, in fact, for England to possibly go home at that stage, which was still in big trouble, you had someone like Rashid Khan then cleaning up the tail. But we cannot not mention Mohammad Nabi, one of the senior most hands, someone who's played the most for Afghanistan there, really showing his experience coming through. And it's no surprise, because there was also this stat which we saw somewhere during the match, that he is the Afghanistan bowler who's topped the chart for most wickets for his country, 15 wickets in this particular match, where he overtook Daulat Sadran, with 14 wickets. And this is of just 18 matches, 18 World Cup matches. That is very praiseworthy performance by the Afghani all-rounder. England would really be disappointed. England would be very disappointed by the way that they have performed here. This would be a loss that they will not really be too happy about. This does put a lot of issues, does put their campaign on a bit of a sticky wicket. If I had to just recap the points table that has changed, or there's some changes in the points table owing to this match. India still holds the #1 position thanks to their win against Pakistan last night in Ahmedabad with 6 points, a very healthy net run rate of 1.8. We don't know if that's going to come and play at some point, but it looks, if more matches like these happen, yes, that's going to come into play for sure. New Zealand holding on to that second position despite a few concerns, a few key personnel absent from their lineup. A little worries there, but they're still holding their position there, and there's a lot of positivity and there's a lot of momentum still with that side. South Africa looking like the team to beat in this tournament. They've had 2 matches, 2 stunning outcomes from both those games, powerful performances. in the third position. Pakistan in the fourth position, still holding strong despite the loss to India, but not a very good net run rate. You'd obviously agree with that. England in the fifth position. Now, that's where the problematic half of the table begins, because you have certain teams that in Australia rounding it off at number 10, even below teams like Bangladesh, Netherlands, Sri Lanka. This is the sort of story that you always want to know. These kind of ebbs and flows of a tournament is what makes a tournament like the World Cup that much more exciting. A team like Australia, 5-time champions, struggling to make this their own, struggling to hit the right stride in this tournament. A team like England, defending champions, finding themselves somewhere in the middle of the table. But yes, at this point, you also need to sound out one aspect, which is in a tournament as long as the World Cup, you have to pace yourselves. I think it's great to start off early, always get those wins and sit pretty, but the point where you really want to hit a very comfortable, consistent stretch is the second half of the tournament, where the business end of the tournament begins. Your knockout start, that's when you want to really hit that patch. So there is still a lot left in this tournament. It isn't all lost, but really, what a stunning win for a team like Afghanistan. It does a lot to this tournament. It does a lot to their confidence. It does a lot to them as a country. And just watching those visuals of them performing, someone like Rashid Khan and someone like Mohammad Nabi really charging up the team there. And a word has to be put for their batting performance as well earlier. Someone like Rahmanullah Gurbaz really spearheading that batting display at the top as an opener was absolutely key for them. That set up the whole win. And of course, the spinners really coming in and making it a party. So this is the update that we have. Had to really come and speak about this, because this is a moment I know all cricket fans would enjoy. We all love a good underdog story. We all love a good upset. It opens up the table. It opens up the tournament to a little more excitement, to a little more dynamic cricket to follow. So yes, just to recap then, Afghanistan upsetting England by 69 runs. The first upset of the Cricket World Cup here in India. The match was in Delhi. You've got a good one coming up tomorrow. Again, a must-win game. Australia versus Sri Lanka. That's from Lucknow. Do catch the preview tomorrow at 9 o'clock, where we set that one up for you. And a few more interesting games before, of course, the India match that happens on the 19th of October in Thursday against Bangladesh in Pune before they head to Dharamshala for a very exciting India versus New Zealand encounter over the weekend. So yes, thank you so much for joining in here to catch a bit of that roundup of the very exciting turn of events today in Delhi. A very exciting match indeed. Do stay on to Firstpost. Keep following First Sports updates here on the Cup of Dreams and much more. We have our eye on all sporting developments around the world. And of course, currently, this is what we have for you. Do keep following us. I'll see you again tomorrow at 7 p.m. for our sports show. And we'll keep all the previews and the updates and bring you such thoughts and such live-ins whenever something occurs. So thank you so much for joining in. Do have a good night, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Thank you.